Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone here. Welcome to another Friday stream here. Happy week, start of the weekend, everyone. And I hope you're all doing well here today. And today we're here in sunny Florida today. We're in the U.S. state of Florida today. I hope you're all doing well here today on this morning stream. So we're here in beautiful St. Petersburg, Florida. A place I've actually been to, and we're right here at Albert Whitted Airport here today. For part 27 of our stream, we're in the Sunshine State, Florida. Yes, this is about as far south as we're going to go among all U.S. states here. So Florida definitely is one of the most visited states here in the country. Major tourism capital of the country. A lot of people love to visit this area for the theme parks, the beaches, the coral reefs, the Everglades, and all that sort of stuff. Or for the cruise ships. That too. So I hope you're all having a great week so far. I know it's Friday, so weekend's finally here. Really excited to hear. So before we get started, I do want to say hello to all you guys in the chat. We have my moderator here lurking in chat, Super Typhon. Good to see you, and hello to all the lurkers as well. Good to have you on board as well. So here's our slideshow here's our nav map where we're going to be flying to this afternoon. We'll fly from Albert Whitted. We'll go from Albert Whitted. We'll fly over downtown St. Petersburg. We'll fly briefly over Tropicana Field, which sadly the roof got torn off because of Milton. Then from there, we'll head up northeast to the big city of Tampa, Florida, which is the largest city in the Tampa Bay area. And once we fly over downtown Tampa, we'll head our way through to Lakeland. We'll take a snapshot through downtown Lakeland. And once we get through Lakeland, we'll go and head our way up to the Orlando area. We'll visit the Walt Disney World Resort. So we'll fly over most of the parks here, including Epcot and Magic Kingdom. Before heading our way over to Universal Studios, Universal Orlando, and then downtown Orlando, Florida, to our first stop here at Orlando Executive Airport. That will be our first stop of the day here, beautiful Florida. Then from there, we'll head through to our second stop. We'll head northeast. We'll fly over to Daytona International Speedway, Daytona Beach. Then we'll fly along the beach coast to the Atlantic coast and make our way over St. Augustine, the historic settlement at St. Augustine, the oldest continuously inhabited European settlement in the country. Spanish found this place. We'll land our second stop in Northeast Florida Regional Airport. Then from there, we'll fly over to Jacksonville. Believe it or not, this is actually the most populous city in the state. That's right, it's more populous than Tampa, Miami, and Orlando. I know, right? Before going along 136 miles northeast, west, till we make our way to the state capital of Tallahassee and Florida State University and land at Tallahassee International Airport. So that is going to be today's flight. So the plane we're taking here today is the good old Grumman Albatross. So yeah, you guys all know about the Grumman Albatross here. Really neat plane, built by Grumman back in the 1940s. The good old Albatross was built post World War II in 1959. It was used by multiple militaries, including the U.S. Air Force, Coast Guard, Navy, as well as the Royal Canadian Air Force and the Hellenic Navy, which is Greece, by the way. But there were also other forces, including Argentina, Brazil, Germany, Indonesia, Italy, Malaysia, Japan, Pakistan, Spain. They built tons of variants, powered. Now it can cruise up to its max speed is up to 200 knots. It says here it cruises about 128 knots, but I think it can go considerably quicker. And its max range is 2,480 miles. So yeah, very effective plane. The Albatross is a neat little flying boat. great to have this bad boy in the sim. Hey, Ibanez player, good to see you. It was great to see you back in the last couple days. Ibanez, definitely check out his stream. Thank you so much for coming here. And hello, Inferno Ninja. Good to have you here too. Welcome on board, you two as well. But yeah, this is Albert Whitted Airport here in beautiful St. Petersburg. So for the slideshow here, for our first slide, we're going to cover um, Albert Whitted Airport. This is the main airport for St. Petersburg, Florida. It's Kilo Sierra Papa Golf. It is the main GA airport of St. Petersburg, but this is also where, fun enough, as the birthplace of international scheduled commercial airline flight. As in 1914, a flying Benoist 14 flying boat from the company St. Petersburg Tampa Airboat Line, piloted by Tony Janis, took off from the downtown waterfront in St. Petersburg and landed in Tampa. And his passenger, one of those being A.C. Pinnell, which is the former mayor of St. Petersburg, and the airport began in 1928 and opened in 1929, named after Lieutenant James Albert Whitted, St. Petersburg native and one of the first 250 naval aviators of the U.S. Navy. During World War II, this airport was mainly used as a valiant but inadequate deterrent to German submarines, or moving it to a larger airport as well. And it was also used, mainly used for Coast Guard. It was also used for the military use as a flight training base of the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps. Fun fact about this airport too, in addition to being used for GA and stuff and Air Force, it was also, funnily enough, this airport was actually involved in the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg of the IndyCar series, and it's actually held here at the airport annually in the spring. Yes, this part is actually used for F1 Formula One IndyCar series. Oh, nice, Inferno Ninja, that's fantastic. Inferno, that's great to hear, my dude. I hope you enjoy it. Oh, you were really there that Sunday, Ibanez? Nice. And finally, for St. Petersburg, St. Petersburg is actually located in Pinellas County, population 250,000, make it the fifth most populous city in Florida, actually. It's bigger than you'd think. And it's the second most populous city in the Tampa Bay area after Tampa itself. And it's located in the Pinellas Peninsula, and its nickname is St. Pete. And of course, there's the neighboring St. Pete Beach. However, if it's one thing St. Petersburg claims its fame is it's known as Florida's Sunshine City, average of 361 days of sunshine annually. And it's even held a Guinness World Record for the most consecutive days of sunshine. And as a result, due to its good weather, it's a very popular retirement destination, even though in recent years it's been a lot more useful. Also, fun fact about St. Petersburg, it's also home to the Tampa Bay Rays. They mainly played at Tropicana Field, which I visited before. Unfortunately for the Rays, well, yeah, the roof came off because of Milton. So, and finally, St. Petersburg is also known for being the birthplace of commercial aviation. There's that too. I would like to visit St. Petersburg again. It's been a bit since I last visited St. Petersburg. It's like I said, it's been a while since I've been in St. Petersburg. All is in good condition. All the pre-flights, I've already checked all the pre-flight stuff. All this stuff's pretty good. We'll do our pre-flight inspection check. Oh, nice. Yeah, it's definitely a great place. It's definitely. Hey, no worries. No worries for the hospital. I hope you're. Oh, no worries, Frodo. I hope your mother's okay. In the hospital. I hope she's doing all right. Always sucks that something has to go happen in the hospital. Trust me, I would understand. Now we're gonna turn on the. Thanks. Engines. We're gonna go ahead and turn. Try and get this thing turned on. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off for a bit. There we go. There we go. She got started. Okay. That looks pretty good, guys. Let's go ahead and get this thing going. Get this albatross in the air. This is actually only the second time I've ever performed the albatross. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go up. We don't need to fly very high for this stream. I mean, our max altitude for this entire trip is going to be 1,500 feet, so this is going to be a low flying stream here. And our altitude is going to be 200. Sorry about that, guys. It had to take me a minute to get this thing. And for the altitude, I'm going to shift it to 50. Let's go. Okay, and we're about to take off. Guys, we're finally here in Tampa, so we're going to finally get this thing in the air. So yeah, of all the states I've visited outside of Indiana and Kentucky, Florida's actually been my most visited state, believe it or not. Is Florida. No joke. So, this here is downtown St. Petersburg, Florida. St. Petersburg, definitely a really cool city. Now, one of the places we're going to see to our left is Al Lang Stadium. This was the longtime spring training home of the Yankees here in St. Petersburg. It's now currently the home. Now the second tier American soccer team, the Rowdies, are now home. Take place here in St. Petersburg. Here in St. Petersburg, Florida. What a beautiful shot of downtown St. Petersburg that is for the Discord. Of course, I will post this information in my Discord, so if you guys want to check out more of my information, do !Discord. Here it is, guys, my Discord, if you guys want to check that out. And so here it is, guys. And we're finally heading from the St. Petersburg area. There's Tropicana Field. Unfortunately, the roof is now torn off. So they now have to play their games at Tampa's George M. Steinbrenner Field. So they now have to play it in that stadium instead of their home ground at the Trop. And speaking of the Rays, I have the T-shirt on. Of course, the Rays are one of the baseball teams I support. Longtime supporter of the Rays. I've even visited the Braves ball. I know this franchise very, very well. Let's go ahead and talk. We're going to head down to Tampa, Florida first. Unfortunately, the one issue for this planet is it's gonna have a hard time sticking to the altitude. So there's MacDill Air Base to our straight ahead of us is MacDill. There's MacDill Air Base. We're going to be flying to Tampa next. So Tampa, Florida, is going to be our next stop. It's actually one of Florida's biggest cities. It's actually the third most populous city in Florida, after Jacksonville and Miami. It's the most populous city in the Tampa Bay area. It was founded as a military center in the 19th century with the establishment of Fort Brooke. It was mainly been big with the cigar industry by Vicente Martinez Ybor, who founded Ybor City. Tampa's economy is mainly driven by tourism, healthcare, finance, insurance, technology, and the maritime industry. Believe it or not, the port, Tampa Bay, is actually the largest in the state, funnily enough. Not Miami, but it's actually Tampa that has the largest port in the state, with $15 billion economic impact. And Tampa is also well known for its other stuff, mainly with performance arts, museums, cuisine, especially its Cuban and Spanish cuisines in particular. After all, it's home to the Florida version of the deviled crab and the Cuban sandwich, which are the signature city of Tampa. And of course, it's big for tourism. It's home to the Tampa Lowry Park, over 2,000 animals, which I've visited. Big Cat Rescue. Busch Gardens Tampa is another really great place I haven't visited yet. And it's also home to some cruise ships, including those for Carnival Cruise Lines, Holland America, Norwegian Cruise Line, Celebrity Cruises, and Royal Caribbean, with itineraries to the Western Caribbean islands and more. But the city is most famous for its its events. Mainly the Gasparilla Pirate Festival is its most famous event in the city, which it's referred to as Tampa's own Mardi Gras. Pirate ships that draw over 400,000 attendees, as well as home to the Outback Bowl at Raymond James Stadium, which also hosted many Super Bowls as well, and more. Tampa's got some great sports teams, particularly that of the Buccaneers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, which play in the city. And both of those teams have won many championships, particularly the Lightning, a big NHL power. Here it is, guys. Downtown Tampa's in front of us. Downtown. About to reach downtown Tampa Bay, Tampa, Florida. So we can see Amelia Arena. And there's also the cruise dock here too. Yeah, here's downtown Tampa and all that. Looks absolutely fantastic here. Not far, there's Raymond James Stadium in the distance. There's Raymond James, and there's Tampa International, which I flew to Tampa. It's pretty nice, and there's a cruise ship, 2 of them. So there's your cruise vacation, guys. You guys can take your cruises. I'm gonna go ahead and turn right. We're gonna fly down to Lakeland next. Let's go ahead and talk a bit about Um, let's talk a little bit about Florida and its history for a bit. So, U.S. state of Florida. Let me go ahead and grab my. So let's talk about the U.S. state of Florida and its history for a bit. So Florida is located in the southeast United States. Florida is well known for being one of the big tourist destinations. It has the longest coastline of any of the contiguous 48, with around 1,350 miles of coast, not including the barrier islands. And it's the only state that borders both the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean. And it's the third most populous state, actually, unbelievably, with 23 million people. Yes, this is the third most populous state, following. Its capital is Tallahassee. Its largest, most populous city is Jacksonville, and its metro area the Miami metro area is the largest with 6.1 million. Since the mid 20th century, Florida has experienced rapid demographic and economic growth, and has become one of the most populous rich cities, world-renowned for its beach resorts, amusement parks, warm and sunny climates, and cultural attractions like Walt Disney World, Kennedy Space Center, and Miami Beach draw millions of visitors. It has a rich cultural identity thanks to its African, European, indigenous, Latino, and Asian influence. Many writers, celebrities, and much more. And it's unique because it is actually the only U.S. state to be pretty much tropical climate outside of Hawaii. So yeah, Florida, great state to visit, especially if you're a big person. In terms of Florida a bit, and to talk about the state of Florida, the indigenous history of Florida starts with the indigenous peoples, with Paleo Indians around 14,000 years ago. By the 16th century, major groups of people living in Florida include the Appalachee of the Florida Panhandle, the Temuca of the northern central Florida, the Ice of Central Atlantic Coast, the Miami in Lake Okeechobee area, and the Tequista of southeastern Florida, along with the Calusa of southwest. Florida was the first region of what is now the contiguous 48 to be visited and settled by Europeans. Be settled by European powers. And the first European explorers came with one Ponce de Leon. Ponce de Leon spotted and landed in the peninsula in 1513 and named it Florida, in recognition of the flowery, verdant landscape because it was Easter season, which they called it the Pascua, Florida. The following day, they shaded shore to see new land, and apparently he was looking for the story of the Fountain of Youth, which appeared only long after his death, was the Fountain of Youth. In 1539, Hernando de Soto skirted the coast of Florida, and he described it as locked mangroves, and eventually they introduced Christianity, cattle, horse, sheep, Castilian language to Florida, and they established several settlements in Florida. Technically, the first European settlement in Florida was Pensacola, but the longest continued inhabited one in the United States was St. Augustine in 1565. Brought Augustine into that as well. It still is today. Geographical area of Spanish claims of Florida diminished with the establishment of English settlers to the north and French claims to the west. And English colonists and buccaneers launched several attacks in St. Augustine during the 17th and 18th century, razing the city and its cathedral to the ground several times. As a result, the Spanish built several forts, including Castilla de San Marcos and Fort Matazan, to defend its capital city from attacks and maintain strategic defense. Of course, in 1763, Spain traded forward to Britain for control of Havana, and eventually it was undone after the war. Eventually, the Spanish got Florida back after the American Revolutionary War, which resulted in Spain keeping Florida for quite a bit longer. However, the Spanish couldn't keep Florida forever because when Americans moved over there during the 1800s, the Spanish couldn't police the region and all that. As a result, eventually Florida was annexed. Parts of Florida were annexed in 1810 under James Madison and the Louisiana Purchase, and then the rest of Florida was claimed in 1819 and 1821. One of the major parts that were involved in all this was the Seminole War, caused a conflict between U.S. and the Seminole tribe here in Florida, due to the passage of the Indian Removal Act, and created another war, which is the bloodiest war against Native Americans in U.S. history. And the Seminoles never really surrendered to the United States. And the Seminole tribe is still in Florida, funnily enough. And as a result, as European settlers continued, Florida then became the 25th seventh state in March 3rd, 1845, admitted as a slave state and no longer sanctuary for runaway slaves. As European settlers continued to encroach the Seminole lands, it launched the Third Seminole War in 1855 to 1858, which resulted in the forced removal of most of the remaining Seminoles. So hundreds still remained in the Everglades. Of course, during the U.S., and of course, American settlers began to establish cotton plantations in North Florida, which required a lot of slaves. On January 10, 1861, Florida declared secession from the U.S. state, and the Confederacy received little help from Florida. Florida provided salt and beef to feed the Confederate armies. After the U.S. Civil War, Florida was under Reconstruction in June 25, 1868. And after Reconstruction ended, white Democrats regained power in state legislature, which, you know what they did, basically just disenfranchised both blacks and many poor whites were disenfranchised throughout the state. However, what really transformed Florida to what it is today was the 20th century. Believe it or not, until the mid-20th century, Florida was actually the least populated state in the country, believe it, as it was only 528,000 people as well. It turns out the big thing that helped grow Florida was tourism, as it stimulated tourism to the state, and with hotels and resort communities, combine that with the Florida land boom, and Florida became a lot more developed during this time. Of course, devastating hurricanes and Great Depression brought that period to a halt, but after World War II, Florida continued to grow as a state. Also, in addition, Florida also grew a lot more with air conditioning, climate, and low-cost living made it a haven. And of course, Florida was also involved in the civil rights movement, with many protests at Florida A&M University as well. In the 60s, many Cuban refugees fleeing the Castro's regime arrived in Miami. And of course, Florida continued to grow like this during the 21st century, becoming nearly 18 million in 2010, and it's now 23 million. Of course, Florida was also in the news in 2012 with the killing of Trayvon Martin by George Zimmerman, drew national attention to Florida's stand your ground laws, and sparked African American national activism. Of course, Hurricane Maria devastated much of Florida, Puerto Rico in 2017, and there were also some mass shootings, including in June 2016 at the Pulse nightclub that killed 49 people, which is the deadliest incident against LGBT people in America. And then you have the Surfside collapse in 2021 that also killed 97 people. So that's Florida's history, of course, a history lesson of the U.S. state of Florida. So that is Florida's history, recorded history of the U.S. state of Florida. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Florida history lesson. I know there isn't too much to go off of history. Mainly it's because, well, Florida's a kind of a new. So the next city we're going to be flying to is Lakeland. So Lakeland, Florida will be our next city we'll be flying you today. It has a population of 112,000, most populous city in Polk County, Florida. It's referred to as Swan City due to its sizable swan population, which were all descendants of two mute swans given to the city by Queen Elizabeth II in 1957. It's also the corporate headquarters for Publix, a major supermarket chain. And European settlers came to this area in the 1870s from Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, and South Carolina in the 1870s. And it grew opportunities with both both farming, citrus, cattle, and phosphate industry. Well, Lakeland also has several historical stuff too, with several historic districts and buildings, including U.S. International Speedway, Florida Polytechnic University, and more. And in terms of sports, it is the main spring training location for the Detroit Tigers. So any Detroit Tiger fans are probably familiar with Lakeland. I think many of you Detroit Tiger fans are probably familiar with Lakeland. It's been the longtime spring training home of the Tigers. Here's Lakeland. That is Lakeland, Florida. It was also a major part of its aeronautics programs, which was used by the U.S. Army Air Corps during World War II. So we're going to go east. Our next stop, next place. We actually are heading to some amusement parks, and there's actually two really big ones in Orlando that's worth visiting. First, visiting Walt Disney World. So, about Walt Disney World, it is, of course, the entertainment resort opened back in October 1st, 1971, operated by Disney Experiences. It covers 25,000 acres, which half was developed. It contains numerous recreational facilities to attract, including 4 theme parks, 2 water parks, 4 golf courses, conference centers, a sports complex, and a shopping, dining, and entertainment complex. There's also 19 Disney-owned resort hotels and 1 camping resort. And it was designed to supplement the Disneyland in Anaheim, opened back in 1955. And he wanted a new park because the one in California was limited by establishments around it. So he built it here in Florida. And his original plans included the planned community and more. Of course, he died during the initial plan. Walt Disney did die, but Walt's older brother assured his dream, and as a result, the rest became history. Opening, and it's become the most visited vacation resort in the world. 2018 attracted more than 58 million people. 58 is the largest single-site employer in the United States, as a big part of pop culture. There are 4 theme parks here in Walt Disney World. We'll be flying over all of them. Of course, the original was Magic Kingdom. Then you have Epcot in 1982, just 11 years after Magic Kingdom. Then in 1989, Disney Hollywood Studios opened. And the last theme park is Animal Kingdom, the most recent, in 1990. And tons of resorts. No joke. Tons of resorts in this area, and a lot of people visit here. The other major resort here in the city for vacationers is Universal Orlando. Universal Orlando is the other one, opened back in June 7, 1990, owned and operated by NBC Universal. There are many rides, attractions, and live shows, and movies, TV, and other aspects of the entertainment industry. And the first of the 3 air parks to open Universal Orlando Resort, followed by Islands of Adventure and Volcano Bay. And it's ranked 11th in the world in overall attendance by amusement parks. And they're going to get a 4th one open this year, Epic Universe. And it was also fueled by another Universal Studios in Hollywood to create a new park to compete with Walt Disney World. Some of its events include the Halloween Horror Nights, Harry Potter themed Wizarding World, and more. But it's definitely pretty cool. It's definitely a cool rival. I've been to both, so it should be interesting to check out here. that is where we're going to be visiting here this. And then, of course, after we buy these two parks, we're going to be talking about Orlando for a bit. So here's Orlando, Florida. Orlando, located in Orange County, population 307,000 people, making it Florida's fourth most populous city, behind Jacksonville, Miami, and Tampa. But it's actually the most populous inland city. It's one of the world's most visited cities due to tourism, major events, and convention traffic. Believe it or not, this is actually the fourth most visited city in the country, behind New York City, Miami, and Los Angeles, with 3.5 million visitors. It's also featuring the seventh busiest airport in the country, Orlando International. And it's home to the two largest renowned tourist attractions in the area, being Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando. With the exception of theme parks, restaurants are located in downtown Orlando, being Orlando's Museum of Art and the Dr. Phil Center for the Performing Arts. And of course, it's also home to Conference Convention Center, Orange County Convention Center. And it grew rapidly from the 60s to the 21st century. Also home to the largest university campus in the country, University of Central Florida. Of course, outside of tourism, Orlando also has a rich history with film during the mid-late 90s, including Lethal Weapon 3, as well as several animated films filmed in Walt Disney World, and more. But also, sports are a big deal in Orlando. Orlando does have two major sports teams. The original Orlando sports team, the Magic of the NBA, and the Orlando City Soccer Club of MLS, as well as home to several minor league teams as well. It's also hosted several bowl games, including the Citrus Bowl. The Pop-Tarts Bowl was hosted in Orlando. Yeah, pretty cool stuff here in Orlando. And our first stop is Orlando Executive Airport, which is located 3 miles east of downtown Orlando. Serves general aviation. It used to be a commercial air. It used to be used by military facilities as Orlando Air Base, and it was mainly used by the U.S. Army Air Forces and Bomber Command to fly anti-submarine patrols, both in the East Coast and Gulf of Mexico. Though after the war, it became Orlando's main commercial airport until they moved everything to the former McCoy Air Base, which is now Orlando International. And now it's currently used as a GA facility for general aviation. So, that is Orlando International. Bot. Why do we have to deal with bots? Yeah, I hope you guys have some really cool plans this weekend. This weekend I got some really cool stuff. I'm going to be watching the Everton game on Saturday. Should be pretty good to watch. The Toppies. If not, if I can't catch it, I'll probably watch some of the other games. But I'll keep a close eye on that. Keep an eye on the Toppies. Yeah, Manchester City should be a big-time opponent. Outside of that, though, in terms of other stuff, I guess I have some more stuff to do at home to work on. I got done with a project earlier in the week for volunteer work. So we're going to be moving here pretty. So I hope you guys are enjoying this stream, guys. I hope you're enjoying the content here. It's a beautiful day. I actually flown in and out of Orlando International a lot of times. Flown in and out of Orlando. So I have a lot of experience getting into Orlando. Here's some of the water park stuff. So there's Hollywood Studios. There's Hollywood Studios to our left. But yeah, I really do enjoy flying this Albatron. This is a very nice. There's Hollywood Studios. There's big old Hollywood Studios. Got some rides here. And in front of us here is Epcot, guys. Here's Epcot. How cool is that, guys? We're gonna fly over these theme parks. Of course, there's tons of other amazing stuff in Florida that we're visiting in Orlando. So if you guys never heard of TripAdvisor, this is definitely a good place to do some things to do. And according to TripAdvisor, some of the top things to do here in Orlando, Universal Studios is obviously one of those. Disney Cove. And there is the world famous Disney Magic Kingdom. The very original Walt Disney World theme park. And turn. So I know some of you guys are wondering why I'm taking a flying boat even though we're not actually sailing or anything. I just thought it'd be cool to take a flying boat since it actually fits Florida's theme of being more oceany. But some of the other top places to do, there are crap ton of places. There is Disney Springs for dining, shopping, SeaWorld, Walt Disney Resort in Animal Kingdom in Epcot. There's also Fun Spot America Orlando, Typhoon Lagoon Water Park Blizzard Beach, Lake Yola Park, International Drive, Aquatica, Harry P. Lou Gardens, the Kia Center, home of the Magic, Icon Park, Exotic Animal Experience, Titanic Museum. I mean, there's just a ton of things to do in. So, yeah, I've been to Orlando a few times. But I'd like to visit Orlando again to explore more of this area. Oh yeah, you want to look at tickets? The one issue with Disney World is its tickets. They are not, they are not cheap, by the way. Here it is. For 3-day, 3-park tickets to Hollywood Studios, Epcot, and Animal Kingdom only. For those 3 parks, it's $89 a day. Yeah, ages 10 and up, $89 a day or $260 per ticket. Yeah, that is expensive. Um, yeah, that is very expensive per ticket for 1 3-day it'd So if you have 3 people, it will cost around almost $700 a ticket to go to the Walt Disney World Resort. That's expensive. Very, very expensive. There's Universal Islands of Adventure in Studios. There's Universal Orlando to our right. There's Universal Orlando. To put this perspective, Universal Orlando, if you wanted to do Universal Orlando and look for tickets, okay, that's 3 people. For Universal Orlando, for 1 ticket for Universal Studios is $119. So, yeah, that's pretty expensive. But I mean, if you want to do something in Orlando once, I guess that's not a bad way to do it. But do expect to pay. Just warn you. Welcome to Orlando, everyone. Orlando, Florida. So after this, we'll land here in Orlando Executive, and we'll head our way over to Daytona Beach. So here's downtown Orlando, Florida. Downtown Orlando. Yeah, that's what Orlando's downtown looks like. There's the Kia Center. And oh yeah, we're gonna also go ahead and disengage the autopilot off, flight director off. We're gonna prepare for the landing here. We're going to land runway. We're gonna go runway 07. Head and trim. Oh, one. With the landing. Yeah, I really like flying this Albatross. This is a lot of fun to fly. We'll stop here. We'll stop here for just a bit. So we make it to our first stop here, Orlando Executive Airport. Here in just outside downtown Orlando. Not a bad landing, negative 170. Got down pretty good. So we'll stop here for just a few minutes. So we're going to go ahead and prepare for leg number 2 as we head our way over to St. Augustine will be our next leg. So if you guys want to join along with us, we're on the Southeast Asia server. Our route for this day is going to be, we're going to head to St. Augustine. So we're probably going to get in the air just in about a minute or two to get back to the skies. So let's go ahead and prepare for the skies here as we prepare leg number 2 here in Orlando. actually a albatross that flew around the world too. Let's go ahead and prepare for the leg. Get this albatross in the air. So yeah, there was actually a Grumman albatross that flew around the world in 1997. Flew 26,347 nautical miles in 73 days. And complete in 21 countries and complete within 190 hours of flight. So, and apparently there's going to be a new albatross as well. It's going to be. And he actually did it to recreate Amelia Earhart's flight. So she's actually during her attempt for Linda Finch. She flew around the world for Linda Finch's. Because Linda Finch did her recreation of the around the world flight. Believe it or not, that albatross actually flew with her as the support plane. So that would be cool though, and maybe if she did the Earhart. Hey, Splasher 6, it's been a while since I've seen you in my chat. Good to see you, Splasher. Long time no see, my dude. So if you guys don't know about Splasher 6, an amazing friend of this community, a long-time supporter, and definitely one of my favorites in the community. Splasher, definitely check out his channel. I hope you're having a great Friday, my dude. It's great seeing you in my chat. So we're here in Florida today. We're flying to St. Augustine today. We're actually flying to Tallahassee today. We took off from St. Petersburg, flew up to the Tampa Bay area before going to Lakeland, and then heading to the Orlando theme parks, downtown Orlando, and now we're heading our way over to St. Augustine. Now we're gonna head to Tallahassee. Got quite a bit of flight left to go. Oh, nice! It's a day off. Oh, nice. Enjoyed that one for sure. Nice to have the day off when you know it. So we're gonna be heading to. We're gonna talk about Florida's geography for a bit as we head down to Daytona. So geographically speaking, much of Florida is on the peninsula, in the Gulf of Mexico, and it is bordered by the north by Georgia, Alabama, into the west, Alabama. So it's also the southernmost of the 48 contiguous states, and it's also one of the lowest lying states in the country. In fact, its highest point, no joke, is 345 feet above sea level at Britton Hill, which is the lowest high point of any U.S. state. In fact, much of the state south of Orlando lies lower elevation than northern. Florida is also home to Lake Okeechobee, the largest lake in the state, and the 10th largest natural freshwater lake in the country, in the contiguous 48. Of course, Florida is most well known for its tropical climate. Florida is, of course, no part. It's tempered because no part of the state is distant from the ocean. North of the lake is humid subtropical climates, while areas south, including the Keys, have tropical climates, meaning high temperatures for late July are within the low 90s, while mean low temperature for early to mid January are the low 40s, North Florida to above 60 from Miami. And it's the warmest state in the United States, with an average daily temperature of 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Of course, due to the subtropical climates, freezing temperature, Florida rarely receives measurable snowfall. However, on rare occasions, a combination of cold moisture and freezing temperatures can result in snowfall in regions like Jacksonville, Gainesville, or Pensacola. Yes, it does happen on rare occasion, but not very often. Florida's hottest temperature ever was actually 109 degrees in 1931, while the coldest temperature was negative 2 degrees. Due to its subtropical and tropical climates, Florida rarely receives measurable snowfalls. However, the thing Florida has to be careful of if you're ever living in Florida is extreme weather. There are two particular issues. For one, is lightnings. Central Florida is literally the U.S.'s lightning capital, and it has some of the highest precipitation levels of any U.S. state. And yes, lightning strikes are common. Other thing you have to be careful is hurricanes, particularly those between June 1st and November 30th. Florida is the most hurricane-prone state in the country. Of the Category 4 storms higher, 83 have hit Florida or Texas. And one such hurricane in 1992 was then once the costliest weather disaster, Hurricane Andrew, which cost more than $25 billion of damages. So yeah, be very careful of the weather here in Florida. I'm just gonna warn you guys about that, since I don't want you guys to suffer. And finally, for fauna, Florida is actually one of the most biodiverse species of any U.S. state, thanks to the fact it's home to tons of different animals. From marine mammals like the bottlenose dolphin and the West Indian manatee, land mammals like the Florida panther, marsh rabbit, bobcats, armadillos, and black bear. But of course, the state's famous for its reptile species, particularly that of the diamondback rattlesnake, leatherback sea turtles, and of course, the American alligator. What most people think is the symbol of Florida, the American alligator. But there's also tons of bird species too, from flamingos to falcons, pelicans, ibises, and even wild turkey. However, there has been a lot more invasive species living in the state due to a lot of the pet trade. Of course, most notably the Burmese python, but also green iguana, the black and white tegu, lionfish, macaques, even tree frog, cane toads, peafowl, and more. And of course, in terms of flora, this state has over 3,000 types of wildflowers, third behind California and Texas, and it has rich mangrove swamps that dominate much of the southern coast of Florida. So yes, Florida is a very biodiverse species. So as a result, yeah, Florida is extremely biodiverse among of all U.S. states. Not really that surprising, but such a biodiverse. So I hope you guys have some really cool plans this weekend. Of course, I know there's been some Premier League games. I'm going to watch Everton. Gotta watch the Toffees. I'll watch Everton. So of course, guys, we're going to be flying over Daytona Beach here. We're going to be heading to Daytona Beach, Florida first. So that'll be our next waypoint is the historic coastal resort city of Daytona Beach. Population 72,000 people. It's part of its own metropolitan area as well. Of course, the city is historically known for its beach. In fact, because of how hard this beach is, motorized vehicles are actually permitted to on some of these beaches, and as a result, it became a major motorsports hub. First, the Daytona Beach and Road Course hosted some races for over 50 years. Were hosted at Daytona Beach before moving it to the massive Daytona International Speedway. And the city is also the headquarters of NASCAR. And of course, it's a very popular tourist destination because guess what? People want to go watch the Daytona 500, as well as other events like NASCAR Sugar 400, Daytona Beach Bike Week, Oktoberfest, and the 24 Hours of Daytona. It's also a hub for higher education. It even is home to the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. So yeah, really cool stuff. Daytona Beach. I've actually been to Daytona Beach myself. I really enjoyed I actually got to visit the Speedway, of course. It's something I really wanted to do. Wanted to visit the International Speedway, which is really cool. You get to learn more about the Speedway and stuff. It's a motorsports mecca. That's something as a race car fan and motorsports fan, you guys definitely want to check out at least once. I think it's like one of the big two American race courses that you guys should probably visit for motorsport. The other one being, of course, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's like that and Daytona are like the two big ones here in the States for motor car racing. I guess if you really want five, I guess you add Watkins Glen to one of those. Is Watkins Glen in New York. Then the next one would probably be, I would probably say one of the other race courses would be probably Talladega, the big massive track of Talladega. That's huge, and of course Bristol, Tennessee, or some of the other. And North Wilkesboro, because that's where NASCAR got started. So here it is, guys. We're about to head to Daytona. Really cool stuff. And yeah, one of the crazy things about going to Daytona, a lot of people don't know about this, is how that track is. Um, the if, when you stand in the track, you realize just how steep it is, the angle of it. Like it is pretty steep when you walk on it. It is actually steep. I did the track tour and stuff, which is super cool. Worth visiting. Just it's just all that banking. Like on the oval turns, it's 31 degrees in the oval turn. Of course, Daytona International has around 41 people fatally injured, and of course, there is one notorious death that happened at Daytona. I think you guys probably know who famously passed away in Daytona 500, 2001. I think you guys all know about it. Yep, it is Dale Earnhardt himself. The legendary Intimidator Dale Earnhardt passed away at the track, which completely changed NASCAR itself and did a whole bunch of safety stuff to make sure something like that didn't happen again. And if you aren't aware about Dale Earnhardt, he is considered to be one of the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time. One of the goats of NASCAR. Earnhardt. Yeah, here's the big old motor speedway term. How huge it is. It is a massive course. Absolutely. And here's the airport. There's actually an airport right next to the track. So this gets really busy during race days. Prepare for the race events. That airport gets quite busy. So there's like the interior track. There's a lot of stuff for visiting for all your race car fans. And of course, if you look to your right, there's Daytona Beach itself. World famous beach. Here's Daytona Beaches. Pretty cool stuff here. And I got these pictures in the Discord. So we're going to go ahead and head back up to the economy of Florida. So let's talk about Florida economically. I guess our next point is actually going to be St. Augustine. We're going to approach our second stop here, not too much longer. Yeah, I really do enjoy flying this Albatross. This is the Grumman Albatross from any builds, I believe. I absolutely love this thing. This Albatross is amazing. Yeah, Mike Johnson made it. Yeah, Mike Johnson did make it. Oh yeah, Mike Johnson made it. I didn't know about that. Yeah, he did a great job of this thing. I really enjoyed flying this Albatross. It's a lot of fun. It's actually a great plane. Like I said, it's nice to have one of these flying boats in the sim that you can just enjoy flying. So. So we're gonna fly up to St. Augustine. So, you guys probably all know about St. Augustine. As I alluded to earlier in our history section, St. Augustine was the original continuously inhabited European settlement founded in 1565. It's just 40 miles south of downtown Jacksonville. It was founded by Pedro Mendez de Aviles, first governor, named St. Augustine because of his ships bearing settlers, troops, and supplies from Spain had sighted land in Florida 11 days earlier, the feast day of St. Augustine. And it served as the capital for Spanish Florida for over 200 years. Then it became Florida's East Florida capital for Britain, and then returned back to the Spanish for the Second Spanish period. And once Spain ceded Florida in 1819 to the U.S., it was one of the two alternate capitals of the Florida territory, the other one being, of course, Pensacola. Of course, it eventually moved out of it as capital in 1824 for Tallahassee. It's still part of Florida's First Coast region in the Jacksonville metro area, but of course the thing that makes St. Augustine unique is its historic character, made it very popular, especially that of Castillo de San Marcos. the oldest masonry fort in the continental United States, as well as St. George's Street that runs through the downtown area, and over 30 houses in tourist attraction. St. Augustine is a really cool. Don't worry, Splasher, you'll be back shortly. I understand you got AFK for a bit. But St. Augustine is a really cool state. And I've been wanting to visit St. Augustine for quite some time. Wanted to visit Sydney. Been wanting to visit St. Augustine for a while now. But according to TripAdvisor, they said the top attraction on St. Augustine Wild Reserve is number one traveler favorite. And of course, Castillo di San Marco's National Monument. Then you have the St. Augustine Lighthouse, which I've actually climbed up a lighthouse in Pensacola, and I had some absolutely insane views. Its famous beach. It's St. Augustine Beach has got a great beach. St. George's Street, great for pedestrians. They got a medieval torture museum, which I can't believe they even have a medieval torture museum. You have the St. Augustine Alligator Farm, the Leitner Museum, which is made from Gilded Age stuff. They got the old Cathedral Basilica there that was built by the Spanish. They got a pirate treasure museum here, old jail museum, Fort Matanzas. They got lots of historic stuff in St. Augustine. So amazing places here in. Like I said, this sort of stuff is why I wanted to do this project to begin with. I think the United States has so many really neat. It's look at all the beach. Look at all the beach coastline to our left. All that, bro. Just incredible beachside resort. And of course, our second stop of the day will be in Northeast Florida Regional Airport. Will be Northeast Florida Regional Airport. This airport was opened back in 1933. It was used for World War II as a naval auxiliary air station, and it was used as a satellite gunnery base in connection with Naval Air Station Jackson. Of course, in post-war period, came more a small airliner stuff. And eventually, this area eventually got a Fairchild modification plant to produce military aircraft like the C-119 Black Boxcar, C-123 fighters. And they also did FBO in 1966. And then once Fairchild closed its St. Augustine operations, the area was then sold to the Grumman Corporation for their own modification for their own military planes, like the A-6 Intruder, Prowler, C-1 Trader, Greyhound, and F-14 Tomcat. It was mainly used for modification for a lot of military. Of course, then commercial aircraft had finally been restored back in the 2010s. Commercial aviation was then restored with Frontier Airlines, then Via Air, and then now there has been attempts to bring it back with the Vail Airlines, but it didn't happen yet. We'll be approaching St. Augustine. Okay. Down below us, I think we should see Fort Matanzas, actually, down below us. Where's Fort Matanzas? Should be below. Should be below us coming up is Fort Matanzas. And then once that, we'll head over to St. Augustine. We'll see San Marcos. Let's check it out. Fort Matanzas is the historical monument. The Spanish stone fort back from the 18th century. Here's Fort Matanzas. I'm going to go ahead and dive down to 1,000. That way we don't overshoot St. Augustine. We'll climb back to 1,500 feet. Here it is, guys. St. Augustine should be coming up right ahead. St. Augustine will come up here shortly. Then we'll land here. Of course, you can also apparently found the Fountain of Youth here too. You can actually found Prince Ponce de Leon's Fountain of Youth can also be found here too. So yes, you can drink the thing and make yourself younger. Typhon, if you're here, Super Typhon, I wonder if my hands are bigger than Murph's. I think my hands look bigger than Murphy's. So, I think my hands are bigger. I want to make sure you're big on my hand size. I don't want to be small like, you know. Here's, guys, downtown St. Petersburg. So here it is, downtown St. Petersburg. There's the Castillo San Marcos. There's the Castillo San Marcos. The runway we'll land here is runway 31. I'll land straight in. St. Augustine. Yeah, the thing I miss the most is I wish we have the. I really want the PMG G737 back. Because I definitely want to do some airliner flying during my free time. Do some really cool airliner flights to some. Maybe I use the 737 kind of for smaller airport. Park here for. St. Augustine. That's our second stop of the day. Welcome to beautiful St. Augustine. Would you even fly the 727 or the ERJ? Potentially, I might also fly those too. But I've been trying to hold off from getting too much of the sim because, like I said, I probably need to wait for a few more updates. I think if I could have already reinstalled the Tiger Moth and the Drifter ultralights. I could have already reinstalled them too, potentially. But I probably want to wait a little bit. That's all. I'm not saying I couldn't fly these planes. I just probably want to be a little smart about it. That's all. But I would think about it, but I want to wait a bit. I just want to be patient and so all this stuff can get cleaned up a bit. That's all. So, we're going to be ready for our last leg of the flight in about a minute or two. We're going to prepare for the final leg of the trip here to Tallahassee, Florida, which is the state capital of Florida. Will be coming up soon, and we're also going to be going through Jacksonville as well on our way to Tallahassee. So we're going to go ahead and prepare for the third and final leg of the stream here. Get ready to take off into I mean, I would probably fly those if I wanted to fly to some of the smaller airports. But I mean, I would also like to. I'm still waiting for the PMDG stuff. That way I can do more of the airliner stuff. Because don't get me wrong, I do like to find the citation longitude, but man, I'm excited to get those PMDG stuff back and get all those liveries back too. Because I want those Fireboy air liveries back so I can do some of these flying stuff. So we're going to go ahead and make our way to Jacksonville. And then for the rest of the stream stuff, we'll cover the rest of the notes after as we head to Tallahassee. But yeah, if I wanted to do some airliner stuff, I guess maybe we'll do some of these hubs locations. Maybe I'd do more with smaller airports instead of the big one. Like, for example, if I wanted to do that again, maybe do from 2 small airports. For example, out of our Pittsburgh hub, we can go from a smaller airport, let's say Atlantic City, over to Pittsburgh. ACY to Pitt, and then Pittsburgh over to Toledo or something. Or Wilmington, Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh over to, let's say, or I could do a smaller one as well. Maybe Lexington, Pittsburgh, Dayton, Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh over to Brandon or something. Be a little smaller, but I think that would be pretty fun. Or from Las Vegas, I think would be cool. Maybe fly from John Wayne or Burbank to Vegas, then Vegas over to Moab. Or maybe even Vegas to something like Elko. Something like that. Could be a lot of fun. And of course, I'm also waiting for that ATR to actually work, and that's the other plan I was really wanting to have work against the ATR. God, if you guys remember some of those streams back when I had the ATR, I had a ton of fun flying that ATR in 2020, man. I mean, there's so many really great routes that ATR. Like I could do ATR stuff in Spain, Portugal, fly around the Azores. Be super. So we're gonna head to Jacksonville, Florida first on our first waypoint to our final stop. Is Jacksonville, Florida. Which, believe it or not, a lot of people don't know this, but Jacksonville, Florida is actually the most populous city in the state. And is actually the 10th largest city in the country, with a population of 949,000 people. Its metro area, its total metro population is 1.73 million people. Believe it or not, this was actually the largest city by area in the contiguous 48. Though it's not the biggest anymore in the contiguous 48. The biggest contiguous area is actually Tribune, Kansas. But Jacksonville, however, is still a very important city as it straddles the St. Johns River in the first coast. This area was inhabited by the Tacoma people, and then, of course, in 1564, it was the site of the French colony of Fort Caroline, one of the earliest European settlements in the contiguous 48. Under British rule, a settlement grew in this area. Eventually, the Platte Town was established in 1822. And it was named after Andrew Jackson, first military governor of the Florida Territory. Improvements to its harbor since the late 19th century have made Jacksonville a major military and civilian port, including facilitating Naval Station Mayport, Naval Air Station Jacksonville, U.S. Marine Corps' Blunt Island Command, and of course the Port of Jacksonville, the largest seaport by volume in the state. Other factors include banking, insurance, healthcare, and logistics, and of course tourism, more specifically that of the PGA Tour headquarters in Ponte Verde Beach. Which is pretty cool. Jacksonville is a neat city. Again, compared to some of the other Florida cities, I think Jacksonville is really overlooked in comparison to Florida's other tourist cities, such as Tampa, Orlando, and the Miami metro area. And it gets overlooked, despite the fact I think Jacksonville has plenty of things going for it as well. Jacksonville's definitely a really unique place. Jacksonville hosts many events, including the annual Gate River Run since 1977, and it's also the site of the Gator Bowl, which hosted in New Year's Day. And of course, it's also hosted the Florida-Georgia game, a major rivalry between Florida and Georgia. There's also the Jacksonville Kingfish Tournament, which is for all fishermen. And it's also home to many breweries and distilleries as well. Believe it or not, Jacksonville is also home to Limp Bizkit. Yeah, fun fact. Limp Bizkit was actually formed in Jacksonville, as well as Yellow Card, Cold. And of course, Jacksonville grew even more with different bands, including that of Shinedown, Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, and more. So Jacksonville's been really good with music. In terms of sports, Jacksonville is home to a major league club. The only major league sports team in the city is the NFL's Jacksonville Jaguars. And it's home to several minor league clubs, including the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. So, yeah, the Jaguars actually play here in Jacksonville. Here it is, guys. Jacksonville. Home of the Jaguars, baby. Duval. Here in Jacksonville, Florida. Though sadly, the Jacksonville Jaguars are not a very successful franchise historically. Here's the stadium they played. This is TIAA Bank Stadium, or actually known as Everbank Stadium, home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, this is Florida's most populous city right here. Mention that, quizzing your friends and saying, what is the most populous city in Florida? I don't think they would ever expect you to give the answer, Jacksonville. Here's downtown Jacksonville. Here's downtown Jacksonville, guys. And you know, I'm going to go ahead and climb up for a bit. I want to get some major altitude. We're going to climb up to... I'm up to 10,000 feet. Yes, because much of Florida is going to be flat, so we're going to climb up a bit in altitude for. So we're going to finally climb up a bit higher. Make our way over to Tallahassee. Yeah, I know. Yeah, climb to a height of nearly 2 miles in a place with 100. Yeah. It sounds weird, but it makes sense, though, considering... But it's going to be all flat and forest stuff, which is not very attractive. We're going to climb a bit higher. Actually, we're just... You know what? I think 6,000 feet would be more fair. Let's climb to 6,000. And... Yeah, let's go 6,000 feet for this next one. I know it sounds weird, but it makes sense considering either we're flying more inland to all the major cities, or we get to the coast and beaches. But since none of this does any major cities, but undeveloped area, it's going to be not very interesting. Oh yeah, guys, one last thing before we get talk more about on Sunday, we'll actually be heading west for the first time. We're going to go to our first western state of our journey, and that be the U.S. state of Texas. So I'll be taking something a bit faster, as we're going to fly through the Longhorn State, Lone Star State of Texas. I think we're going to take. I'm thinking about taking the Cessna Corvallis for that one, and we fly through Texas into Corvallis. let's go ahead and talk a bit more about Florida as we head our way to Tallahassee. So we're going to go ahead and talk a bit more about the U.S. state of Florida as we head our way over to Tallahassee. Let's go ahead and talk about Florida's economy as we head to Tallahassee. So in terms of Florida's economy, economically speaking about Florida's economy, it's actually the fourth largest economy in the entire United States. Its gross state product is $1.67 trillion. That's right, it is one of the most prosperous economies in the entire country. I believe the only states to rival that of Florida are the U.S. states of California, Texas, and New York. Are the only three states that rival the economic power of the U.S. state of Florida. And if it was its own sovereign nation, it would rank as the world's 15th largest economy, ahead of Spain and behind South Korea. The major part about Florida's economy is trade, transportation, utilities, government, professional business services, education, health services, and leisure and hospitality are all major parts of the U.S. economy in Florida. In the 20th century, industries include tourism, industry, construction, banking, biomedical life sciences, healthcare research, and much, much more are major parts of Florida's economic output. And of course, in 2017, Florida became the 8th largest exporter of traded goods in the country, and some countries for export are Brazil, Canada, Mexico, Germany, and Colombia. Major places for trade here in the U.S. state of Florida. The highest GDP of all metro areas in the state is the Miami metro area with $344 billion, which is more than twice as much as the next area being the Tampa Bay area. Its GDP per capita, however, is 40th in the nation with 39,000 people. One last thing about Florida that makes it unique economically is the fact it's one of only 7 states to not impose an income tax. Yep, that's right. Florida is one of 7 states to not do an income tax. Of course, the other states with no income tax include Alaska, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, and Wyoming. Are the only other states to not have an income tax. That is definitely pretty unique for sure. You know. Of course, another big part of Florida's historical economy has been agriculture. It plays a big role in Florida's history, of course. Thanks to its relatively warm climate, it is very popular for a lot of citrus fruits, which includes orange juice. They also grow bell peppers, tomatoes, sugarcane, peaches, strawberries, and watermelon. Florida is the number 1 state in the growth for oranges, for juices, mangoes, fresh tomatoes, sugar, sweet corn, green beans, cucumbers, watermelons, and more, as well as being the second biggest producer of strawberries, avocados, grapefruits, and peppers in the country. Of course, a big part about Florida agriculturally is strawberries. Strawberries are actually a major crop here, second only to California in strawberry production. But of course, peaches are also grown here too. And believe it or not, it's a growing crop due to the breeding of citrus. However, it still produces far less peaches than California, but has an earlier season than any other country. Of course, citrus production began in the 1500s for cultivating citrus. However, commercial scale was only attempted in the 1920s. At first, it went badly due to poor understanding of local climate terrain and pest and disease epidemics, but now it's growing quite a bit more. So Florida's been a big part for citrus. Outside of that, though, there are a lot of other crops and stuff grown here. But believe it or not, the largest farm category by sales in the state is not citrus, it's actually orientals, including those for nursery, greenhouse, flower, and sod products, as well as other crops like sugarcane, sweet corn, celery, and green beans. So yes, fishing is also a big deal here too in the state of Florida, as it caught 109 million pounds of fish. It is also a big part of other stuff. Most notably, a massive chunk of Florida's economy is tourism. You guys all knew. You guys all knew this was coming. Yes, it is tourism. Florida tourism industry is massive. And tourism is one of the largest sectors of economy with nearly 1.4 million people employed in tourism. And it began, in fact, tourism in Florida got its start from the Florida East Coast Railway, which allowed tourists from wealthy northern cities to reach for vacation destinations here in the state of Florida. Then you have the Dixie Highway, which was open from the Midwest to the South, allowed automobiles to come here. And of course, the first amusement park was Cypress Gardens in Ware Haven in 1936. Many beach towns are popular tourist destinations, particularly those during winter and spring break, and brings a lot of young tourists to Florida, but also older tourist issues for locals and older tourists. $23 million tourists visit Florida beaches in 2000. Well, and then in 2015, for the first time ever, Florida broke the 100 million tourist mark. Yes, over 100 million visitors visited Florida in 2015. Amusement parks such as Greater Orlando area make up the significant portion of tourists, mainly Walt Disney, but also Universal Orlando, SeaWorld, and Busch Gardens also make a big chunk of tourists. And finally, in recent years, Florida's main state parks attract visitors as well, with over 25 million visitors checking out state parks, but also some of its national parks, including 3 of them in the state: Everglades, Biscayne, and Dry Tortuga National here in the state. we're gonna head our way down over to Tallahassee. We're just about under 100 nautical miles from our next stop in Tallahassee. Of course, war has definitely been really interesting this time of year. Really enjoyable with you guys. I hope you guys are enjoying the stream. If you guys are liking the stream and want to see more of the channel, we stream here 3 days a week on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays here on Twitch. We have our next stream on Sunday for our flight in Texas, from Houston to San Antonio, visiting Austin to Temple, and then going through Waco to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metro. We'll be back on that as well. Point here in Florida. So we're just about 87 nautical miles away. So we're going to go ahead and talk about another topic here about Florida for a bit. Transportation. In terms of transportation here in the Florida, of course, Florida has several transportation stuff to talk about. Its highway system contains about 1,495 miles of interstate highway and over 10,000 miles of non-interstate highways. And they're maintained by the Florida Department of Transportation. There's also over 9,000 retail gas stations in the state. And in fact, Floridians consume 21 million gallons of gas daily, 11th behind California and Texas. Also, their highest rate. Also, motorists in Florida have one of the highest rates of car insurance in the country, because obviously a lot of older people and car crashes can happen. Of course, some of the highway interstate routes that connect Florida include I-4, I-10, I-75, and I-95. All some of the major routes connecting here to the state of Florida. In terms of airports, there are 131 airports in the state, and Florida has 7 large hub and medium hub airports. Those being the busiest airport in the state by employment, Orlando International. Then you have Miami International in Miami. Then you have Fort Lauderdale International, Hollywood International in Fort Lauderdale. Tampa International in Tampa. Then you have the small medium hub airports of Southwest Florida International, Fort Myers, Palm Beach International for West Palm Beach, and Jacksonville International for Jacksonville, Florida. In addition to this as well, they have several intercity rail and public transportation networks in some of its major cities. But it's mainly automobiles that mainly make the main part of transportation. we're going to make our way over to 75 nautical miles out from the state of Florida. Well, some pretty big stuff here, of course, has been going to be NHL stuff. So the NHL have clinched pretty much their playoffs have been clinched. The NHL postseason has finally happened. For the Eastern Conference, the Maple Leafs claimed the division and are now the Capitals have claimed their conference as the top team, with the Hurricanes and Devils from the Metropolitan Division making the playoffs. And the Atlantic brings 5 teams into the playoffs, including the Maple Leafs, the Tampa Bay Lightning and Florida Panthers, the Ottawa Senators, and the Montreal Canadiens. So pretty much we have 3 Canadian teams in the playoffs this year. In the Eastern Conference. In the West, the Winnipeg Jets have the best record in the NHL. They claimed their division. And then you have the Stars, Avalanche, Wild, and Blues making it out of the Central Division. The Pacific Division will have the Golden Knights, Kings, and Oilers playoff bracket. This should be interesting. So, if I were to ask who I think will make the Stanley Cup this year, I think the Jets will make it to the finals this season. I think there's a realistic chance we could see an all-Canada Stanley Cup this year. No, I'm being serious. Winnipeg is the best team in the West. They've been great all year. I think we likely see. My prediction would be the Winnipeg Jets versus the Washington Capitals. Which I think that would be my prediction. Though that being said, if Toronto and Winnipeg make the finals, I mean, all you Canadian fans would probably be very happy about this. At least it isn't an American team winning the Stanley Cup. At least all the Canadians would be pretty happy to hear about that. Oh boy. I know all you Canadians are going to be very excited to hear that. So our next thing about Florida to cover here is going to be the sports. Florida has multiple sports teams, including 3 NFL teams, 2 Major League Baseball teams, 2 National NBA basketball teams, and 2 MLS teams. And believe it or not, Florida gained its first professional franchise all the way back in 1966 with the American Football League's Miami Dolphins. Also, in addition to that, about half of all MLB teams actually conduct spring training in the state, known as the Grapefruit Leagues. as well. In terms of major league sports teams, basically the three NFL teams are the Jacksonville Jaguars, the most recent, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa, and the original team, the Dolphins. The two baseball teams are the Miami Marlins in Tampa, Miami Marlins in downtown Miami, and the Tampa Bay Rays. Normally they play in St. Petersburg, however, they're now playing at Georgia Steinbrenner this season. The two NBA teams we have the Miami Heat and the Orlando Magic. The NHL teams, the Florida Panthers and Tampa Bay Lightning. The two MLS teams, Orlando and Miami. NASCAR also has all three of its major racing series in Florida, being in Daytona, the original, Homestead, Miami Speedway in Homestead, and of course the Grand Prix in St. Petersburg. Florida's also a major golf hub thanks to PGA of America headquartered in Palm Beach Gardens, as well as the PGA Tour and multiple championships have been held here in the state of Florida. And finally, collegiate sports are a big deal here thanks to three major universities. Florida State Universities, the Seminoles, University of Miami, the Hurricanes, or simply known as the U, the Florida Gators out of Gainesville, as well as they now have several other programs like Florida, South Florida, University of Florida, Florida Atlantic, and Florida International. Or at least just some of the teams to name. So here are some fun facts about the Sunshine State that you guys should probably know about. In Sanibel, Florida, there's a museum that owns nearly 2 million shells. And it's claims to be the world's only museum dedicated solely to mollusks. Yeah. Venice is known as the shark tooth capital of the world, as collecting prehistoric shark's teeth has been a favorite pastime for visitors of this area for years. The next fact is, of course, the legendary sports drink, Gatorade. Well, if you want to know why they call it Gatorade, take the 8 out of it and you get Gator, which is because of the University of Florida Gators, where the drink was developed. Miami Beach pharmacist Benjamin Green invented the first suntan cream in 1944, and he accomplished this development by cooking coconut butter in a granite coffee pot in his wife's stove. And boom, created the first suntan cream to help people so you don't get sunburnt, which is an issue that people have if they don't take skin. Plant City, Florida, known as the winter strawberry capital of the world, hosts the Guinness World Record for the world's largest strawberry shortcake. And it was an 827 square foot, 6,000 pound cake. And it was made on February 19, 1999 in McCall Park. And finally, of course, I think we mentioned this earlier, young aviator Tony Jannus made history on January 1st, 1914, when he flew the world's first scheduled passenger service airline flight from St. Petersburg's downtown yacht base into Tampa, solidifying a massive chapter in aviation history that will still be felt for years. Of course, and are some notable people. There are a lot of people here from the state of Florida, including Julian Adderley, saxophonist from Tampa, singer Pat Boone from Jacksonville, star baseball player Steve Carlton from Miami, baseball pitcher Dwight Gooden out of Tampa, Faye Dunaway, actress from Bascom, Osceola, the Seminole Indian war leader, Janet Reno, Attorney General from Miami, star basketball player David Robinson out of Key West, Sidney Poitier from Miami, James Weldon Johnson from Jacksonville, and Howie Doro from Orlando. But yeah, these are some of the famous people that are from Florida. That wraps up our information about Florida today. We're going to go ahead, get ready to get going back here in Florida, of course. We're going to go ahead and descend back to 1,500 feet above sea level. We're going to descend 500 feet per minute. It's going to take us a bit, but we're going to go ahead. So here's some state symbols of Florida. There's a lot of them. The state animal of Florida is the Florida panther, which is actually a subspecies of the American cougar. They actually live in South Florida. Its state beverage is the orange juice, made of the squeezy extract of the orange tree fruit. The state bird is the American flamingo and northern mockingbird, state birds of Florida. Its official marine mammal is the Florida manatee. Which fun fact about the good old manatee, of course. Here's the fun fact about manatees and what they're related to. In terms of taxonomy, their closest living relatives are actually to elephants and hyrax. Yes, you heard this right. This is one of the closest living relatives to elephants, is these guys. But they all get into a lot of boating accidents, sadly. The nickname is the Sunshine State. The reptile is the American alligator. State song is Old Folks at Home. So yeah, definitely some pretty interesting stuff. So finally, we're going to head our way to Tallahassee. That will be our final stop of the day, our final destination for today, Tallahassee. Hey, Kaharia, good to see you, my dear. Hope you're doing well, Kaharia. We're about to make our way to Tallahassee, so here's a shout out for Kaharia. If you guys don't know about Kaharia, she's an amazing friend in this community. Love her streams. She's currently doing her Spitfire around the world trip, but also she does airliner streams on Sundays. and much more on her channel. Check her out. Great friend. Yeah, we're doing our 50 states and 50 streams again. We're in Florida today. Um, here's the map. We started all the way back in St. Petersburg, or the birthplace of commercial aviation. We flew over Tampa. Then we went to Lakeland. We flew over the Florida amusement parks, Orlando for our first stop. Second leg will take us to Daytona Beach, fly our way to St. Augustine, and then the third and final leg we visiting Jacksonville, and we're flying all the way down to Tallahassee. So that's what we're doing here today, Car. We're flying in the plane we're flying. The good old Grumman Albatross is what we're flying today. I wanted to take her for a spin. Like I said, never really flown with the Albatross before, but yeah, I really enjoy her. Albatross is a lot of fun to fly. Great to have a flying boat like this. So, oh, no worries, cooking dinner. Oh, nice. I'm heading out for dinner later tonight, so I'll be doing that. Finally, of course, is of Tallahassee, Florida. So Tallahassee is the capital city of Florida. Population 201,000, making it the 8th most populous city in the state. However, it is very well known for being a college town with a student population exceeding 70,000 people, and it's home to 3 colleges, the most notable being Florida State University, which I've actually visited. Really nice campus. Florida State University is a great campus. Florida A&M University and Tallahassee State College. As the capital, Tallahassee is the state side of the Florida State Capitol, Supreme Court of the state, and the governor's mayor. And it's known for its large number of law firms, lobbying organizations, trade associations. And it was even once an All-American City Award winner twice. Yeah, Tallahassee is a really interesting city. I did visit there as well. Of course, being a college town, Tallahassee's got some pretty rich culture. In fact, there's actually a couple of famous musicians here. Of course, Ray Charles, who was actually raised in nearby Greenville. Ray Charles was actually, even though he was born in Albany, Georgia, he actually grew up in Florida. He often performed, family in Tallahassee performed in the Frenchtown. T-Pain was born and raised in Tallahassee, and he was known for using auto-tune. And then, of course, the post-grunge band Creed was also formed in Tallahassee. But of course, the big part about it is being a college town. Florida State is a big deal here. Florida State sports are pretty massive here in Tallahassee, most notably the Florida State Seminoles football program. And they're successful enough to win 3 national championships, 19 conference titles, and even made their playoff appearance. And they produced 3 Heisman Trophy winners, Chris Winkie, Charlie Ward, and Jameis Winston, as well as several Hall of Famers and legendary players. In fact, there are 5 Seminoles in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The iconic Fred Biletnikoff, primetime Deion Sanders, who's now Colorado's head coach, Derek Brooks, the former Buccaneer legend, Walter Jones, and Leroy Butler, the most recent Seminole in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But yeah, some legendary figures on Florida State football. Of course, historically, their best head coach is without question the legendary Bobby Bowden, who has only had 2 losing seasons. He's built an absolute legendary program at Florida State. Yeah. Outside of that, though, there's several minor league clubs here too in the past, but it's mainly a college town. And finally, for our last stop of the day is Tallahassee International Airport. The main airport serving this area. It's one of the major airports serving North Florida, along with Jacksonville, Northwest Florida, and Pensacola, and Destin, Fort Walton. It started back as municipal airport in 1961, and it mainly did some local aviation services as well. It was also the site of the Freedom Rider protest, in June 1961. During this time, they protested a restaurant. The bar was designated whites only, and the protesters entered there as well. Of course, this airport is mainly used for local flights to Charlotte, Dallas, Miami, Washington, and more. So, it's mainly been used, though, for certain destinations across some of the hub airports. And yes, Silver Airways also flies to Fort Lauderdale because Silver Airways flies the ATRs. And Fort Lauderdale is one of their main hubs, if not the main hub for Silver Airlines. Here we are, guys. Welcome to Tallahassee. So we'll be rounding the state capitol, and we'll also fly over the university too. Yeah, I got to visit Doak Campbell Stadium. Really, really great place to watch a game. Got some good seats. But of course, nothing beats a game day at Florida State. It is a very tough place for opposing players to play at, especially when FSU does their famous tomahawk chop in the war chant. Now that turns that place into a madhouse on game day. But here it is, the state capital of Florida. And right over ahead of us is the university itself. Florida FSU. Gold Knolls. Here's Doak Campbell. Very, very tough place for opposing players and coaches. The Tallahassee Airport will be coming up soon. We'll be landing in runway 27. And make our way. Yeah, guys, I hope you're enjoying this day. I've really enjoyed this flight here in Florida. Finally making our way to Florida. Like I said, Florida is basically is another home state for me. Here it is, guys. Tallahassee International for the Knolls. And that's it, everyone. Welcome to Tallahassee Airport. Stop right here. And we're going to go ahead and shut down the plane. So that's it, everyone. We finally made our way to Florida, everyone. So, guys, I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you guys for coming here today. The turnout was great today. I'm really happy with it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the U.S. state of Florida. Such a really cool state, tons of culture and all that. So we will be coming back here on Sunday. We'll be seeing you guys in Texas. We'll see you in Houston Hobby. Um, so we're gonna have plenty of information about Texas, and I can't wait to show you guys the Lone Star State. So take care, everyone, and have a fantastic start to your weekend, everyone. Take care and have a great day. Goodbye, everyone.